I'm glad to welcome you to our fourth session, or actually our fifth online meeting together, if we count the initial introduction meeting. My name is, once again, I keep forgetting to say it every time. My name is Aida Diomengulova. I represent the Public Foundation Agency for Development Initiatives. Our organization, as part of the FAO project, is organizing this school together with our partner coaches, Anatoly Albin from Moldova and Gordana Judic, who is absent today for a valid reason. That's it. And Madina as well. Madina also represents our organization and is responsible for technical support. Our online school for Paralegals is intended for our region, which is Eastern Europe and Central Asia, so that we can strengthen our capacity and further promote the issues of farmer seed production in our national legislation. The background for this school is that, for example, our organization has already been working for more than 10 years in the field of preserving local varieties of vegetables. But our legislation does not reflect exactly this kind of system, like the farmer seed system, which has its own differences from industrial seed production. That is precisely why we have made considerable attempts, regrettably not very successful, to comprehensively include the precise definition of the farmer seed system itself within our existing legislation. And we realized that we couldn't find a lawyer who could competently explain things to our government, to our decision makers. And we ourselves, as practitioners working in seed production, also couldn't work with the laws. That's why this school is intended for us, for practitioners, so that we can understand what international legal frameworks exist that we can rely on to promote the farmer seed system. And thanks to this school, we have the opportunity to listen to speakers, international experts who can help us in this matter. Previously, there were 2 theoretical sessions where we discussed the main framework legislations at the global level. And now we've reached the point where we want to see how this actually works in some countries. And today's session will specifically reflect the European Union's policy regarding seeds. And we are very pleased that our speakers today are special people. Guy Kastler is, as Anatoly, today's moderator, will explain in more detail, but he is one of the well-known figures working specifically in the field of farmer seed production and is involved in the movement of Via Campesina. Yes, this is a farmers' movement. I now give the floor to today's moderator, Anatoly. Yes, Anatoly, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Aida, thank you very much. I'm very truly happy to see such wonderful and distinguished speakers among the esteemed participants today. Today we have the third session of this important training. Today we will talk about more specialized and particular topics. We will talk about the comprehensive regulation of seeds by the European Union, a crucial and significant subject. And we will delve even deeper into the specific practices of individual countries, such as France and Denmark, which are also part of the European Union, but each of these countries has its own path. And that's what makes all of this so interesting, both the European regulation and, France, and the situation in France will be presented to us by Guy Kastler. Guy is both a dedicated farmer, an influential activist, and a profound philosopher, and I'm truly pleased to give Guy the valuable opportunity to fully inform us about the current situation in the European Union, and more specifically in France.
Hello there, Guy. I am indeed on time as promised.
There, I've successfully turned it on, but please excuse me for a moment. So hello everyone, it's a pleasure to be here. I am myself a dedicated farmer, now honorably retired from my active farming life, and I proudly represent Via Campesina Europe in various important European and international debates concerning both the crucial aspects of seeds and the complex issues surrounding genetically modified organisms. So I will try to first present to you the essential and most significant key points that are crucial for a comprehensive understanding of the underlying reasons and motivations driving the development and introduction of these new and impactful regulatory proposals currently being put forth and discussed within the European Union. So currently there are indeed 2 significant proposals to comprehensively reform the existing European seed regulations. These important proposals were officially presented on the very same day, specifically at the beginning of July in the year 2023, by the European Commission, the executive body of the European Union. One concerns the regulation of genetically modified organisms, which are now being called new genomic techniques, but it's the same thing. And another concerns the marketing of seeds, which is of particular interest to us today. You simply cannot fully understand either of these important proposals without carefully looking at the other one. Yes, it is also absolutely crucial that you cannot truly understand them without closely following the ongoing and often intense debates that are currently stirring within the European Parliament and the Council on the very significant and complex issue of patents. And then without even taking into full account other significant regulations that are also continuously evolving, which are quite rarely mentioned or discussed in the mainstream media, regarding plant health, the comprehensive monitoring of plant health, as well as the entire extensive regulatory framework. Yes, all of these aspects are crucial. So the entire European legislative framework is currently undergoing a significant evolution to further strengthen the extensive control exerted by a relatively small number of powerful multinational seed companies. These companies, in turn, are themselves heavily dependent on the vast chemical and pharmaceutical industries, which are largely and predominantly controlled by influential financial funds, many of which are primarily American. It is therefore critically important to consistently keep this complex and interconnected international context firmly in mind when considering these developments.
Dear esteemed participants, I would like to suggest that we thoroughly review the more detailed and intricate questions that are reflected within the comprehensive presentation at Gem Hustle a little bit later, perhaps after a short break. And now, as you can see, there are already very progressive laws in France regarding the inclusion of the pharma seed system into local legislation. So let's perhaps ask some questions. How exactly, yes? How did this come about, and what prompted such changes in the legislation, right? What contributed to making such progressive changes to the legislation of France regarding farmer seeds?
Yes, well, listen, I'll answer you. I hear Russian, so that's why I was waiting for it to be finished. So in the document that I sent you and that you translated, these are articles of French law that through union struggles and civil society mobilizations, we have won over the past 20 years. And so most of these comprehensive and well-established laws have made it entirely possible to effectively protect farmers and also consumers against genetically modified organisms, commonly known as GMOs, against the outright ban, against the restrictive ban on the free exchange of seeds between farmers, against the unjust appropriation of farmers' valuable seeds by large industrial patents, and against the complete ban on farm-saved seeds. Perhaps you can provide a more precise translation for that particular phrase. I'll let you translate. Yes, so all these existing laws would be completely repealed by the two significant regulations proposed by the European Commission on NGTs, the new genetic techniques, and on the crucial seed trade. So this fundamentally means the significant disappearance of traditional farmers' seed systems, but also the eventual disappearance of organic, completely GMO-free agriculture because of potential contamination and restrictive patents. This significant development will also inevitably result in the complete disappearance of many small, independent French seed companies, much like what has already occurred in various other European countries. And as for almost all of the large French seed companies that don't typically use patents but rather rely on plant breeders' rights, they will inevitably become dependent on the 4 or 5 dominant multinational seed corporations. These include one significant player in France, which is Vilmorin, Moulin Mulgrain, then Bayer, BASF, and Corteva in the United States, and Syngenta in Switzerland, which was notably bought by the Chinese. French seed companies will inevitably fall under the significant dependence of these very large, powerful corporations, which are, in essence, the only ones to truly hold the vast majority of crucial patents on virtually all seeds worldwide, especially with the advent and widespread application of these innovative new genetic techniques. So the proposed development is little by little, and it will happen very quickly and with significant impact. The gradual and complete disappearance of all national food and seed sovereignty, leading to a profound shift in global agricultural control. We will inevitably be forced to grow and then subsequently consume the bountiful harvest from the very seeds of these 5 or 6 powerful multinational corporations that today, as I have previously stated, collectively hold nearly 70% of the entire global seed market. So, another critically important aspect to fully understand is that the primary industrial resource utilized by these powerful seed multinational corporations is in fact the very seeds of the farmers themselves. These invaluable seeds were meticulously collected from diverse agricultural fields located all over the entire planet towards the end of the last century. Subsequently, these large and influential companies have systematically crossbred these collected seeds to meticulously create numerous novel and distinct varieties. Furthermore, they now actively manipulate the genetic material, the very genes of these new varieties, in order to aggressively claim extensive patents on virtually all seeds that contain their specifically patented genes, thereby asserting significant control over the global seed supply.
Guy, thank you very much for the presentation and for highlighting the very important, the most important issues that are currently concerning European countries. And also, I hope that we will have the opportunity to discuss repeatedly the issues regarding protection and farmers' seeds, that is the right to seeds. France's experience is one of the oldest and most important in Europe. That is why we hope for a more in-depth study of this subject. And now, dear participants, I would like to introduce Louise Windfeldt. He is a representative from Denmark, a PhD, a horticulturist, a scientific writer in the field of science, supporting organic farming and agroecology, and also a scientific secretary. From the Danish Organization for Seed Preservation, who will be presenting to us the current situation in Denmark, which is also proving to be very interesting and quite noteworthy. As far as we know, Louis will not let me lie. There is a special provision there that allows amateur gardeners to freely sell seeds. Louise, please, the floor is yours, and we welcome you to speak about the Denmark case. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. So I'm I'm Louise Windfeldt. I'm a horticulturist actually, and my PhD work is about plant genetic resources and how to disseminate knowledge of plant genetic resources to as many people as possible. So here we are. That's what I'm doing. I'm working for this NGO called the Danish Seed Savers, as you said. And it's an organization back to 1987. We are 1,200 members, and what I just briefly want to say is that we have a seed bank among our members. That means that we grow traditional seeds in our own gardens. We have more than 500 different varieties, so they are growing on farm or in garden, as you might say. The interesting thing here is just to point out that the things that Guy is talking about is, of course, things from the EU, and Denmark is also a member of the EU. So what is interesting here, talking about legislation, is that there are regulations and there are directives. And so what he is talking about concerning GMO, for instance, is a regulation. That means it is also in Denmark. So everything being regulations are coming directly from the EU and are implemented in all the countries in EU. But there are also directives, and I'm going to talk about a directive because directive have to be implemented in Danish legislation or in French legislation, and that is why we have a Danish case that is very liberal, seen to... I'm here again. Talking about directives have to be implemented in Danish legislation or all the countries' legislation, and that is why we have a very, very liberal seed legislation right now in Denmark, and that's what I'm going to talk about. So going back to 2015 or 2014, I think more specifically, there was a breakdown in the trying to make a new legislation in the EU. And that led in Denmark to the Danish Seed Savers going directly to the Danish officials and to the Danish Ministry of Food, telling them that we needed to take better care of all the traditional seeds. So that is all the seeds that are not on EU seed list. So these are all unregistered seeds. That's what I'm primarily going to talk about. So we were at that time, we were not allowed to exchange or sell seeds, which was in our view a very bad idea, because all these unregistered seeds are all the traditional Danish seeds. I'm sure you also have a lot of traditional seeds in your countries that are not registered. So these came primarily from families or farms. And what the Danish Seed Savers did was making seed pop-ups. So they went out and said, now we exchange seeds. And they invited the press, the television, the radio, and everybody were like, what? Are you not allowed to exchange seeds? Are we not allowed to exchange seeds? Are we not allowed to exchange seeds with our neighbor? Because no one knew, because people just did it. And so it was a big case. I think we got the most of our members in these months exchanging seeds everywhere with everyone. And that led to a very interesting also thing, that there was made this dialogue forum in the Danish Ministry of Food, where the officials was sitting together with the agro industry and the Danish Seed Savers as an NGO. And we were directly making the new legislation in Denmark. So that is, of course, building on the EU seed legislation, but it has room for interpretation, and that was what we used. So what came out of this was a legislation where you are able to exchange seeds as long as it is for non-commercial use. This means that if you have some seeds and you give them to a gardener, you're able to do so. You're not able to give them to a farmer, because the farmer is a professional user. So that is the only thing here. I come back to the farmers later on. So you can always exchange seeds or sell seeds as long as the one you give them to is not going to use them for professional use. So that is more or less the Danish case. It was a big success, I need to say, and it still is. There has never been any examples of fraud, any examples of pests, any examples of bad quality seeds or other problems coming from these traditional varieties. On the contrary, there have been a much broader diversity of agricultural seeds, or that is mostly vegetables, and because we made this very spectacular seed pop-up sessions, everybody in Denmark, or a lot of people in Denmark, knows about this now. And everybody think that this is going to be to the end of their days. And that is what, unfortunately, maybe not is going to happen, because now there is a new seed legislation coming to the EU, and we are trying as much as we can to tell politicians and the EU that this is they have to take out all the conservation work, so that we are sure to be protecting all these unregistered seeds in the future. But the new legislation is a regulation, and that is the problem here, because the regulation is going to be for the whole EU. So we cannot make our own version of it. So I'm just going to tell what we have now is still that the Danish ministry is administrating this legislation and gives out every year this what do you call that, instruction of how to do it. And I sent yesterday for the interpreters a brief document, and in this document you find a link for this one in English, and there's also other things that are translated into English, so that you can see how the Danish legislation is working today. So, concerning the farmers, so as just to sum up, as an ordinary citizen or a gardener, you can of course exchange seeds, and you can have any seeds you want. But for farmers, you can take your own seeds to produce what you're actually growing in your fields, but not to take seeds from them. So you're not allowed to do that. You can buy the conservation varieties, and you can produce and you can sell new seeds of these ones in smaller quantities. You can harvest and use your own seeds of commercial varieties, so that is the varieties on EU seed list, as long as you are paying the license for the variety owner. And you can also, what is also I think maybe quite special to the Danish way of doing it, if you are a group of farmers, you can go together in a closed circuit, and you can exchange seeds in this circuit. So nothing is sold, but seeds might be produced that way. So then I just want to talk briefly about why all these unregistered seeds. So I hope you maybe know this, but I just shortly tell you that all these seeds will never be able to go into EU seed list, because to go there they have to go through this DUS test that makes them distinct, uniform and stable. And all of these seeds are not uniform. That means they are genetically uneven. And genetically uneven seeds can never go into EU seed list. Some of us, I think all organic farmers as well, think that having seeds that are defined as a variety but still are not totally alike, totally even, but genetically uneven, are actually very good to grow, especially in a climate where we are not sure of what is going to happen in the future. So they are better able to adapt to new climatic circumstances. And therefore, we think it is a good idea to also insist of growing genetically uneven seeds. Today you can register them as organic seeds. That means as organic heterogeneous material. You probably also heard about this. But still, you can also register as conservation varieties. In Denmark, we have 2 different conservation varieties. I know because I put them on the list. They are the only 2 there. It's very, very expensive. It is more than 1,000 euros for one variety to be registered. And every year we pay 200 euro for administration. And that is what my small organization has to pay. So that is the reason why there are only 2 seeds, 2 different varieties on the list. But these varieties, you are able to produce them professionally. So today you can buy these old farm varieties. It's 2P varieties in Danish supermarkets. They are produced. But yeah, that is it. What we're hoping for in the future, I can just briefly tell, is that, of course, that we will, as ordinary gardeners, be able to grow our own varieties, to exchange varieties, and to sell varieties not being on EU's list, because this is good for the conservation and for the diversity of seeds. And at the same time, we hope as an organization to be able to do the same. So we want all conservation work to get out of the legislation. So that means to be out of scope of the legislation. That comes into, if you know the new legislation, this is Article 2 into the definitions of what is actually covered by the law. So, and then for the professional farmers, we hope very much that we will. My Zoom went somehow out. I don't know what happened. Well, I just talked. That for farmers that undrop the undrop legislation from the human rights is going to lead the work.
It's
I'm here.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
So thank you very much.
Very well.
Yeah, for such a detailed presentation. But I have, the privilege to give you a first question.
Yes.
Do you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, perfect. So you mentioned very clear that the Danish legislation made a clear difference between the ordinary gardeners and professionals or farmers. So I would kindly ask you to give us a bit of more information if you have it now, or to provide it on emails, about criteria. Which criteria do the government use in regulations of Denmark, defining that both ordinary gardeners from the farmers, professional farmers? Because for us it's quite a tricky thing. In which moment I, as a gardener, can consider myself as a farmer, and in the vice versa, in other directions. So thank you.
So this is tricky, of course, and that is where we were actually, to be honest, we were quite astonished the day we got the text in 2015 of how they actually made this. So what they said is, as long as you are not using the seeds professionally, that means as long as you don't sell them as seeds, you can still grow them in your garden as a farmer. But if you put them on the market in small bags selling the seeds, or in big bags selling the seeds, it's professional use.
And I have the second one. It's just like personal interest. EU has the specific directives. It's delegated act was, about the heterogeneous materials.
That's in all EU countries.
Yeah,
That is not different in Denmark or in France.
And I consider it really, it's like a breakthrough in this both, two different systems of seed productions, and the EU somehow recognizes that farmers or simple ordinary gardeners used to work with the heterogenical materials, yeah. And that's why when you have direct sales or you have local sales, you are not obliged to certify it, to have patent and so the seeds, And my question:
these seeds are certified. These seeds are certified, but it's a very, very easy process. That means you have to describe your heterogeneous seeds, so that everybody knows that it's not another variety, of course. So as long as you can describe them and you are delivering the description for the ministry, so it is like this in Denmark. I guess that it is like this in all countries in the EU. You can deliver the seeds, you can sell them on the market. You're allowed to sell them, and this is this is mostly for agricultural seeds, so it's for grains. And there is actually also in this paper that I sent to the translators, the company called Landsorden, they are actually selling today different varieties that they have themselves put on the market. Yeah. Sorry, did I answer your question?
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. Because I think we see so in this directive of you on heterogenical materials, on organic heterogenical materials, exists a window which we have to use in terms of interpretations of UN droplet that we have. So because there is a good answer or solution in that, defining true ways to enter into the market. And of course.
What we think is really, really important here, and I'm sure that Guy will also go into this if you ask him, that is that it has to be organic and it has to be free of GMO. Because this could be used as a way into the market for GMOs, and this is not the purpose. The purpose is to keep organic seeds free.
Абсолютно.
Yeah.
Thank you. Уважаемые участники, если у вас есть еще вопросы, пожалуйста, задавайте, у нас есть время. Диной Мухаббат из Таджикистана задала вопрос: продавать только семена или сельхозпродукцию? В смысле закона, то есть как говорит что об этом говорит закон? Maria, can you...
So agricultural products, you can always sell those. It's the seeds we're talking about.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, that's enough. So, Alvina, у вас был вопрос.
I would like to express my gratitude to both the first and second speakers, as well as to Kastler. The topic is very interesting, important, and relevant. We hope to receive these materials after the seminar so we can study them in more depth. This is very important for us. I am also very much interested in Ms. Louise's insightful presentation regarding seed bank custodians. I genuinely and truly want to learn more about the significant concept of local or traditional varieties and how they are preserved and utilized within communities. We are also a seed bank. In Tajikistan, this movement is just beginning. This is the process of creating community seed banks. We use the concept of local varieties or traditional varieties. What do we mean when we say local variety or traditional variety? These are varieties that have been created by our ancestors over centuries, or varieties that our breeders have developed. For example, when we go from house to farmers, we find that the same local variety is called by one name in one kishlak, in one village, and by a different name in another village. And it's also difficult for scientists to determine. Back in Soviet times, science was very strong. I don't want to criticize right now. It's very hard to find someone who can identify them. We have worked a lot with cultivated fruit trees. It's the same with apples or pears. All across Tajikistan in different regions, the same variety, for example, is called by different names. So in general, my question is, what exactly is a local variety? Is it something produced by breeders, an industrial variety? Or how can one determine whether it's a bred variety or a local variety? For many years, even deans and farmers, for example, don't know who created this variety. Thank you very much. We are very interested. We would like to learn more about your organization. I hope we can find out about your activities on the internet or somewhere else. Thank you very much.
So in Denmark, there's not a very strict definition. I think you find the most strict definition I know is in Sweden. And I think they say 80 years. It has to be 80 years old. I don't know why exactly this year, but it's maybe not that important. But the seeds are important, and please take care of them because you still have them. In our country, we were so ineffective that 150 years ago we lost a lot of them. Please take care. You still have them. And so it's the grandmother's seeds, it's the farmer's traditional seeds, it's the seeds that grow locally where exactly you are, and also take care that the one in the next valley might be a little bit different, and then please name them after where you found them, because that might be interesting in the future if the climate is going to change. We need all these different variations of something that might look the same. So even though I cannot give you a strict definition, it's traditional seeds coming from farmers, and they are all important, and they belong to the farmers, and this is of course why we are here. The second thing is, in Denmark we put our seeds in the gene bank. So they are in the gene bank where they are frozen, but we still continuously grow them. That means that they continuously change a little because they are heterogeneous and because they adapt to the climate. We consider this to be the best way to conserve them, but it was still about definitions. I think it's quite easy concerning apple and pears because here we grow clones, right? In Denmark, around year 1800, all these varieties were registered by names, often by names of who had been growing them. And that is what you need to be able to have a catalog of all the interesting fruit varieties that you have. But these, as you of course also know, are easy to keep as varieties because they are all distinct, and because you graft them, you take a little twig and put on a new tree the word graft, to make a new tree. So these are easier to keep. Of course, they also sometimes differ, and new varieties will this way be made. Is that more or less answering your questions? My advice is take care of more of all that you have. I mean, don't be afraid that they might not be right and old enough. But of course, I know there has been a problem of a lot of seeds flooding the market from the Soviet Union at that time. But I know that at least I've been working a lot with the Baltic countries, and they have a special thing about all their grandmothers' seeds, and they had through all the time when they were part of the Soviet Union. Yeah. Is that more or less what you asked me?
Louise, thank you very much. It's quite elaborative response.
Спасибо большое, но значит, по вашим словам, такой вывод, что местный сорт, это значит тот сорт, который выращивается у нас. Это может быть привозной сорт. Тогда мы можем назвать этот сорт местным сортом. Может быть, 10-20 лет назад были привезены. Может быть, наши селекционеры изобретали этот сорт. Поэтому, значит, просто понятие местный сорт как-то не очень четкое, что ли. Трудно понимать. Извините, спасибо большое.
Можно вопрос, да?
But one thing, as long as no one else has the right over the variety, you have to take care. Yeah.
Аида, да, пожалуйста.
Да, спасибо большое за презентацию. Мне кажется, очень интересный опыт, который мы могли бы использовать. У меня вопрос такой. Вы сказали, что там ваши эти местные фермерские семена, они тоже сертифицируются, да, или проверяются. Правильно ли я поняла? Если да, то кем? И второй вопрос, насколько...
No, they're not.
No? Окей, отлично, да. А то
This was about unregistered varieties. It was I had a question of the heterogeneous material being organic. This is certified.
Organic, only for organic. Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
хорошо.
the organic heterogeneous material is certified.
Окей.
To be-
И второй вопрос, да. Второй вопрос, который я хотела бы задать. Насколько вы считаете, должно регулироваться местные семена? Потому что если есть такая как бы... Вот мы с Анатолием тоже как-то обсуждали, да, что насколько глубоко и детально должно законодательство регулировать местные семена. Не создаст ли это потом какие-то проблемы для местных фермеров, да, если это будет перерегулирование местных фермерских семян? Ваше мнение какое? На каком уровне вы находитесь? Какое
Yeah,
ваше мнение?
Please
Спасибо.
don't. Sorry.
Да.
Please don't regulate them. Just let them be there. And let the farmers put their names on them and make a registration. That means not a registration that way, but make a description, a very, very thorough description. And remember to make a description of the history, because the history is what makes them special. So here you tell the farmer's story.
Окей. Интересно, да.
And don't regulate them.
Да,
Let
ну
the
просто
farmers
нам-
exchange. That is what says UNDROP. The UNDROP legislation says that all farmers have the right to exchange their seeds among them and to
sell?
sell.
And sell. Да, ну вот как раз вот вопрос Махаббат, то, что она Мухаббат Эджи поднимала, да, определение, потому что в Кыргызстане мы хотели в основной закон о семенах внести такое определение, что фермерские семена – это вот такие-то семена, для того, чтобы наша деятельность хранителей семян, она была легализована.
Аида, очень
Спасибо.
хороший вопрос.
Да.
Это, над этой дилеммой мы еще долго будем думать.
Да, ну вот сейчас посмотрим, что скажет Луиз, да.
Louise, yeah, please, sorry for interruption.
Да.
So,
Мне просто
so
интересно,
what
как
we are
они
trying to do now in the EU is to take all the conservation work out, to put it out of scope, as we call it. That means that the legislation is just not going to reach all the conservation work. That is the gene banks, but it is also all these small NGOs. It's all the seed libraries. It's everybody working with conservation. So the definition should be on the work we do and not who we are. So as long as we are taking part in the conservation work, we should be out of scope of this regulation. So I'm not sure that we get totally through with the whole thing. As it is today, no one asks us. But I know that this is not the case in all the EU. And what we hope is that we might just have to register to tell, if you're an organization, at least in my country, you have, I don't know the name in English actually, but you have some paper telling who you are. And if this paper is telling that you're doing conservation work, you will be registered and you will be okay. And then all the seeds we have of course a database of all these seeds, but actually the more we exchange seeds among us, the more diversity we will have. So no need to register all this. And as I told you, For 10 years in Denmark, there have been no problems whatsoever.
Louisa, thank you very much as well. So, дорогие участники, если у вас есть еще вопросы.
Alvina wanted to ask a question. Alvina, you raised your hand. I just, lowered your hand.
Yes, thank you. You know, I really did raise my hand. I had a question for the first speaker, but I changed my mind because there was very little time left and I didn't want to burden him with more questions. I just wanted to express my sincere gratitude to him because it was abundantly clear that he is very selflessly and wholeheartedly dedicated to diligently preserving local agricultural diversity, to actively preventing genetically modified organisms, GMOs, from extensively spreading and thereby significantly harming sustainable, healthy, and environmentally friendly agriculture. And I also hope that from the publications, the presentations that he will share, we will learn a lot because, as you know, due to technical issues, we missed some things. Moving on. The second presentation, of course, was very interesting. I want to thank Louise for that. In just a few words, dear colleagues, I would like to share Armenia's experience with you. The very first thing we did was try to preserve all the local varieties in gene banks. We even duplicated them in Svalbard and in the Slovak gene bank to ensure their safety. We did it, we succeeded. How do we define what farmer seeds are? For us, these are seeds that do not have a breeder. We can't say that someone in particular is the author of this variety. If the author of a variety is unknown, but the variety is still around, people are looking for it, for its seeds. It's being cultivated. Regardless of the scale, whether large or small, we call such seeds local or ancient, and naturally, we try to preserve them. As for registration, you can't actually register them because for our two regions, the Caucasus and Central Asia, there is a concept we use very often, and it refers to local seeds. In reality, it's a population variety. They are not homogeneous, they are not uniform. So even if we try to register them as UPOV requires, for example, we won't be able to. They won't pass the test for homogeneity, stability, and yes, resistance. But thank you again to Louise for highlighting the importance of this. We understand, and we will understand even better, and follow these principles. And well, that's probably all. Thank you all. Thank you.
Alvina, thank you as well for your intervention. In fact, the criterion you presented is very interesting.
May I say one thing?
I'm sure that your seeds are stable. They are just genetically heterogeneous. So this test you have to pass to come to be on the seed list, to be UPOV's seed variety, it says that it has to be distinct, uniform, and stable. The only thing that our seeds are lacking is the uniformity. They are stable and they are distinct. So this is also about all vegetables before 1950. Very, very good varieties, but not able to come into the UPOV definition. Sorry, that was just to...
Yeah, it's okay. Thank you. It's really matters what. And the logic that you, Alvina, just expressed is actually very, very, very accurate from both a scientific and regulatory perspective. So yes, we're talking about populations, not about varieties, and that's why we can't talk about registration, about registering varieties. And in this regard, regulation and the influence of UPOV over including national legislation are essentially excluded when it comes to, so to speak, establishing the obligation to register or asserting copyright claims on these varieties. And that's why they are excluded from, should be excluded from the restrictive norms of legislation. Yes, this needs to be, it's very important to note this for future discussions as well, including discussions at the government level. This argument is very important. Thank you very much, Alvina.
Yes, indeed.
Dear participants, our session today has come to an end. We are very pleased and genuinely appreciative of the active participation of all our esteemed speakers. Although we did experience some minor asynchrony in the live translation from French, we want to assure you that we will meticulously translate all the presentations and subsequently provide them to you for your thorough review. We will also diligently endeavor to maintain consistent contact in future sessions and carefully select relevant topics that we would genuinely like to further address and explore in greater depth. And in the next session, in the upcoming sessions, we will continue to study together and delve even deeper into local and national legislation, including from the EU, and we will try to examine in more detail, so to speak, the current new trends regarding regulation in the field of seed rights. Because even the presentations by both speakers today highlighted two important points. That is, in addition to discussing the full realization of farmers' rights to seeds, which also includes, among other things, the right to sell seeds, the right to seed sales, and today's situation points to two risky scenarios that we have already encountered. These are genetically modified organisms, which in principle, in some cases, have already gotten out of control, and it is essentially unknown whether control over them can even be established. And the second significant issue is, of course, to what extent formal seed production regulations or comprehensive guidelines within the seed sector can effectively help the broader international community as a whole in thoroughly addressing the pressing climate change challenges and their multifaceted implications. Aida, please go ahead.
Yes, I would like to add to what Anatoly has already said. At the moment, I am at an international event dedicated to agroecology issues, and there is an Asian group present here. And yesterday we had an entire thematic group dedicated to seeds, and I invited speakers from Asia, because in Asia, the most progressive countries in terms of legislation on farmer family systems are India and secondly Thailand. It turns out yes, and they are ready to share their experience. And I think that after hearing from Europe and from Asia, we will have a very interesting picture within this framework. So I wanted to announce that there will be an opportunity to hear about Asia's experience. And of course, we will also hear from our participants from Central Asia and the CIS, such as Moldova. Thank you. That's all I wanted to add as an announcement for some of the upcoming sessions.